day. So for a second, we'll get to Houston, Florida and the game itself. My God, what a game Saturday night. Here are a couple of notes on the run that Houston made when I pretty much said, man, if they could ever get it to about 5, and they never could, and then they finally did. 8:17 left. Duke had, remember these percentages we've showed when Tech was down by 98 point whatever? Then they also had the lead against Florida when they had a 98% chance of winning. Duke had a 98.5% chance of winning. 8:17 to go. Evan Mayakawa, who joins us today at 4:25, he said, there's the kill shot. And then they outscored Duke 25-8 from that point on. So there's one of the nuggets. Chris Vanini had this one. No, that was, here's another one. 11-1 run. The last 114, Duke made 2 field goals in the last 13 minutes, none in the final 3. You see the graphic at the bottom. And Houston will play Florida tonight for the national championship.
Yeah, it was Kelvin Sampson's basketball at its finest. Earlier on the triple option, Pierre Nugent was on with me, and he said, I watched it. He goes, I never felt at any time that there was like a flurry. I was like, no, that's just it for Houston. They're just so ridiculously efficient on both sides, and they play such good defense. You can never get a kill shot on them to where they're going to give up. They're never going to be up by 16-20 on this team. They got close, but they weren't, right?
Yep.
So they always keep you within the relative of, okay, if we get 3 shots to fall, we're back in this thing. And that's pretty much exactly what they did. Duke kept missing shots. Houston for a while wasn't going down and making those shots, but they kept getting rebounds. They kept forcing possessions. They kept doing these things. And little by little, they chopped away at it until then Duke was in panic mode because they were watching this slip away. And Houston's like, well, this is just a normal day for us.
Yep. They were able to get close enough, Craig, to get in their atmosphere because they hadn't throughout the game. And Duke hadn't been in any of these games much this year. And it looks like to me that Houston just needed to get close enough to force Duke to do something different.
Congratulations to University of Houston, all their fans. I mean, it doesn't mean as much if they don't win tonight. It doesn't, but it does mean a whole hell of a lot that they did what they did to have the opportunity they have tonight, and that is an all-timer of a game that will live with them. But I think you guys agree that the impact of it will only be fully felt if they win later on tonight.
It'll be memorable, but it will be unbelievable.
It's nothing close to what it will be if they win tonight.
Sure.
It's a great memory regardless, but it's nothing close to what it could be if they win tonight. I think everybody can acknowledge that. So fun to celebrate for a couple of days, but man, I know that the nerves are back on for tonight, and what a great game this should be between 2 incredibly talented and just fun to watch programs. I think it's going to be an awesome matchup. And, yeah, there on Saturday night, it felt like the Houston season was just going to kind of peter out. They weren't going to be able to muster enough offensively, and just seemed like the writing was kind of on the wall late in that game. But, man, they got that Coug in them. They just got that mentality, that heart that Kelvin Samson has, conditioned and practiced and willed into them in some cases, and then they brought it themselves with their own backgrounds and, inner strengths and whatnot. It's just a combination of a bunch of dudes who are not going to give up, and they didn't give up on Saturday night, and they scrapped and they clawed and they fought, and you hear that sometimes in games, and sometimes it's just kind of a cliche, but that was not a cliche on Saturday night. I mean, they did every tiny thing they could to muster a loss or to muster a win out of what looked like it was a surefire loss, and they did it. They pulled it off. I didn't think it was going to happen. Even when they started going a little bit of a run, I just felt like at some point Flag was going to hit a bucket or something and just kind of derail it, but just everything went their way there at the end, and they forced a lot of those things going their way. So that was incredible, an all-timer of a moment, no matter what happens tonight. But again, it could definitely be higher profile, and just really happy for Houston, really happy for their fan base. I'm really happy for the Big 12 in a way as well, and I just thought that was an incredible theater on Saturday night, and unexpected the way that game was going for a large portion of it. So to be sitting there and just watched. I mean, that was March. That was that. Like, there's been a lot of those moments missing from this tournament, I feel like, but that was March right there. That was the heat of battle and high drama, high stakes, and it was awesome. And it was great to see Houston pull that out.
I actually squealed like a teenage girl when Houston. I guess when Roberts hit the first free throw, I was like, my God, they're tied after all it took to get back to that point. Then he hit the second one. Here is Kelvin Sampson following the game, not only discussing the toughness of the Cougars and who they are, the culture of University of Houston men's basketball, but also a shout out to the brethren among the 16 teams in the Big 12.
You spent hours selecting your patio sofa. Choosing that grill would have taken weeks. Probably your car needed way more time. For sure, you would have spent months mulling over that pool of yours. Protecting your prized possessions needs no time, though. Just visit coversandall.com, create a custom size per your requirements, pick a fabric, and personalize your cover. And leave the rest to us. Premium protection for all that you love.
We will hear a few comments. Brett Yormark was on CBS Sunday afternoon on many things, including the Big 12 basketball and more, and even potentially down the road when it comes to what might happen anymore when it comes to conference realignment. But a great emotion. L.J. Cryer standing right behind him, the former Baylor guard, trying to become the first person to ever win 2 championships with 2 different teams. Did it with Baylor in 21 and now trying to do it with Houston and San Antonio tonight.
I can't begin to tell you how much I love Kelvin Sampson and like what he stands for in the basketball coaching world and everything that watching that team. Like I do. I enjoy him greatly. He's a no-nonsense dude all the way around. I think like if you had to have your like rankings of best coaches who haven't won a title yet, he's probably the current leader of that one. And if he finally gets one tonight, there's probably no one who's earned it resume wise and like chopped wood
of
like
the 4 coaches in the Final Four. Goldman, of course, is very young. But Bruce Pearl had not won one either. And, of course, there we are, as you mentioned, with Kelvin Sampson and also Shire, who's early on in his tenure and career, too.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Pearl and Rick Barnes, to me, are on that list with Kelvin Sampson of really good coaches who haven't won a title yet. We'll see what happens tonight. I do know this, like, both these teams played exhausting games. Like Florida and Auburn gets lost in the shuffle, but that was back and forth the entire time. Like, they really fought out hard. They knew each other well. The coaches are friends and all these things. And Florida won, but that wasn't easy. Neither game was a blowout. Both games were great. And 2, Houston and Duke, man, they had to spend all their energy out on Saturday night.
Every ounce of it, yeah.
Yeah, I've always liked Kelvin Sampson going back to his days at Oklahoma, and I'd be thrilled for him if he's able to pull off the greatest career feat of winning a national championship later tonight. Man, certainly worked hard enough to earn one and been close enough. And, what a golden opportunity there is later tonight. So I would love nothing more than to see him and his program hoist the trophy. I know we're going to talk a bit about, what people from the state of Texas are sort of thinking about a Houston title tonight. But I, for one, will be rooting for the Cougs. And in part because of the Big 12 factor. You guys know I'm very adamant about not being a cheerleader for everything a conference does because I root for a team. I don't root for a league necessarily. But when you root for a team, there are times where you do then in turn have to root for the league, or it's smart to root for the league. And I think with just the amount of attention that was paid to the SEC this year, and rightfully so, they got glossed all over and slobbered all over as being the best conference. And look, if Florida goes and wins it tonight, that puts a cap on what was an incredible run with a multitude of teams and everything in the tournament. But I do feel like the Big 12 got disrespected a little bit at times. And I understand, like, they didn't have 10 teams ranked in the top 25 or basically the entire league making the tournament. You can make an argument they should have had more in both cases, but let's just face it, they're a league that's never going to get respect. And there is an asterisk to that. And the asterisk is unless they go out and they force respect. And unfortunately, just making title games is not going to do enough to force respect. You have to win national championships. The SEC, I'll maintain this, is not, yes, they had tradition before the 2000s and they had their geography and they had all these different things. But the reason why they are who they are today is because starting with LSU in, 2003, they went on this run where LSU won titles and Florida won titles and Saban and Bama won titles and Auburn won a title and Georgia won titles. Well, the Big 12 looks a lot different if you say, hey, Baylor and Kansas won titles, and then a bunch of people made the finals. No, you need Baylor won a title and Kansas won a title, and then here comes Houston and they won a title, and then you want Tech to go win it, and that's how you build it up. You don't build it up by, we played for it. Like, that only goes so far. Winning it is what matters. So I think it's imperative for the league to really put the hammer down in the postgame later on tonight and really put the exclamation point by finishing and sealing the deal and saying, yeah, we went 19-1 in the best damn league in America, and we just came and won the Natty to further prove the point that, we are the best and we come from the best. And so I think it would be a massive deal for the league to have a third national champion, to make the games great. To make the games great, that's more money, that's more exposure. Everybody's talking about them today. But the real effects of it only matter the most that they possibly can if you go and win it. So a big opportunity, I think, for the league and obviously for Houston as a program. I mean, it's so big. Everybody knows that. So, yeah, man, I can't wait for tonight.
You could have a lot of appearances, but you're right. You got to win them. You could have a lot, win a lot, too, and then it makes it even better because you got in it a lot, you won it a lot, and so the Big 12 with Houston tonight against one hell of a team they're facing along with who they are in the Florida Gators, who were able to get past Auburn, and they had to kind of get a kill shot in early in the second half. As it looked like Auburn was at least in control of that game.
There's a big difference in saying, hey, Baylor and Kansas won it in the last 5 years, and then we made it, and Tech made it, and then saying, no, Houston and Baylor and Kansas all won it, and then, oh, yeah, you can throw Tech on there as well. 3 different national champions in the span of a handful of years is a big damn deal. That would be a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely.
And I think Kelvin Sampson taking that time when he could have talked about anything in the world he wanted to shout out the league, I think was very cool on his part. And not surprising because he seems like a class guy. But I think, that also shows the importance of kind of that narrative that he picked that moment to make sure that he shouted out his fellow coaches and the toughness of the league. And, yeah, they went 19-1, man. Yeah. In arguably the toughest league in America. It wasn't touted as that this year because, again, the SEC had a great run. But all that matters really is the bragging rights at the end of the year, and that's something that they'll be able to vie for.
I do think that the 2 best teams from the 2 best leagues are playing tonight for sure. And that's a huge thing for, I think, college basketball. And, one of the things I kept hearing people say, and I thought this as well, but, sometimes that's just a thing that you're trying to grasp at straws. Duke hasn't played a close game hardly all year. I mean, they were head and shoulders above everybody in the ACC this year, which used to be the kind of basketball conference, Craig, that you were just talking about. It's not currently. Could it be that way again really fast? Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's one of the reasons, because of the Big 12 and the fact that Houston plays close games pretty much every night, and they're used to it. At the end of that game, when they were, methodically, whittling away on that lead, I do think, especially since there are so many freshmen and guys who haven't been in the situation out there before, they're like, wait a minute. This is the part of the game where I get to sit down for 2 minutes instead of 1. Like, these are the times where I don't have to do this because we're all right. And we can try new things. What is going on? Like, why is this happening? And you saw what happened. I mean,
it was, literally an amazing finish. And Florida, man, they're good. And Clayton, the guard, is amazing. And now, again, these teams are playing tonight. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of all this, there's a lot of other notes on transfer portal. We'll get that in a minute. Now, remember who hired Kelvin Sampson at Houston? Mack Rhodes. He went from Houston to Missouri to Baylor. This is a quote. This is a story when they introduced Sampson after he had been out because he had a show cause because of rules, and he admitted to them. But Mack Rhodes, when he was asked about any concerns, not after we sat down and talked and did all the research we did, we've got to know him. He was completely honest, candid, transparent, remorseful. He knew that he'd made mistakes, and we've got great comfort with Kelvin Sampson. He believes Sampson can help the program get back to where it was. It was one of those cases when it was just a perfect match. We hit it off, and I think I think he believes in what we're trying to get done at the university.
Yeah, and he came into Houston with something to prove, right? I mean, like he was doing great at Oklahoma. He didn't get fired for, like Bobby Knight slapping a player. He didn't get fired and in trouble for something like that was totally illegal. He made excessive phone calls and texts. That's what he did.
Which was against the
rules.
Yep,
but
rules.
It's one of those things that Kelvin Sampson's firing, I do think, opened the eyes of a lot of people going, wait, what? Like, so you're telling these people to recruit all day long, and then when they do that, it's against the rules? And did he like send them money or anything? Like, no, we didn't find any evidence of that. He just talked to him a lot. You're like, oh, well, that doesn't really seem like a fireable offense. Like maybe you slap him on the wrist and see what happens. No. We can't have people, using phones.
Well, they changed the rules.
And they changed, and then they eventually changed that. That was one of the rules that got changed really fast before all this other stuff, because they're like, yeah, especially now with everybody having a phone, that's kind of a dumb rule to have. So they changed it. He had gone to the NBA for a little while, took his, what I think Fran Fraschilla called it his graduate level course there, came back with a PhD in basketball, with a lot to prove at Houston, and he has proved almost every single bit of it. And his legacy to me isn't tarnished if they don't win tonight, but it is certainly cemented if he does.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of issues there. Indiana, quite a bit, but he is on the other side of all that, clearly, and has more than, I think, proven his mettle and, gotten over that. And if we were sitting there, Xing out people who had violations of college basketball, I don't know who would still be standing.
Bruce Pearl wouldn't.
Bruce Pearl would be nowhere near the sport of basketball. So, yeah, I mean, that's something that is as much of a part of the story in a way of, righting your wrongs or bettering yourself or whatever, however you want to look at it. He has gone on to more than show his strength as a basketball coach in Houston. Has been just a great partnership. And I think when you look at the Cougs and their entry into the Big 12, a lot of people still question it, still feel like probably wasn't a smart move at the time. I mean, there's a lot of people I know that pick at the Cincinnati move and kind of second-guess things. And I think with Houston, I mean, look, man, they're playing for the national championship in basketball. Like, football might be taking a little bit of time to get where it needs to be. But I think Willie Fritz has them on a good course. But a big part of the attraction of the University of Houston was that basketball program and adding to a league that had, national championship caliber programs. And they've rolled in, and in their 2 years, they've been, is it 2 or 3 years now?
What's that?
Houston in the Big 12. I'm trying to think.
It's just the second year.
2 years, okay, yeah. But in the 2 years they've been in, I mean, they've more than fit in. Hell, they've run the league in so many ways. So they've been an incredible addition from that standpoint. And you go out a national championship in basketball. I say that was well worth adding the Houston Cougars to the league.
I remember when they were at it, yeah.
For any doubters that were still out there, you go hoist your third national champion in the last handful of years, and they're one of them, and they're the latest one, then, I'd say that was paying off tenfold.
They are 34-4 in the 2 years of the Big 12, won the regular season both years, and, of course, this year also won the tournament championship.